In this tutorial, we're gonna implement Razorpay payment using Node.js and React.js. What we're gonna do is to implement a web application like this, and inside that, you can enter amount to payment like 200 rupees and click on Razorpay. You will have Razorpay modal like this, and you can make payment using test payment, but it's gonna be converted to the real payment too. By clicking on pay, the payment is gonna be done and you will be redirected to the Razorpay website, and by clicking on success, the payment will be done and the new record will be added to the screen. For the backend side, we're gonna use Node and Express.js, and for the frontend side, we use React.js. Let's start by backend. Open your VS Code and from terminal menu, click on New Terminal. What we're gonna do here is to create a new folder in the desktop. Go to your desktop folder and then create a new folder. Set the name to Razorpay-app. Press enter and go to this folder. Type code and put in a space and enter dot and press enter. By running this command, you will have a new VS Code instance, but this time you are in the Razorpay app folder. What we're gonna do here is to create a Node app. From terminal menu, click on New Terminal, and to create it, enter npm init and press enter. For question, just press enter, accept defaults, and at the end, you will have package.json in the Razorpay-app folder. The next step is gonna be creating server.js. Right click here, new file, and set the file name to server.js. What we're gonna do in this file is to create a backend to list orders, create Razorpay order, and confirm the payment in Razorpay. First step is gonna be importing Express, Mongoose, and Razorpay. Let's go for it. Here is the import code for Express, Mongoose, and Razorpay. Also import this one, .env package. We need to use this to read Razorpay key and secret from .env file in the project folder. Next step is gonna be creating an instance of Express, and after that connect to the MongoDB database. We use mongoose.connect function, and the connection string is coming from .env file. So it's time to create a new file, set the file name to .env, and inside that, we need to define Mongo URI like this, put equal sign, and set the MongoDB URI. I'm going to use local MongoDB installed on my computer, localhost, and the name of this database is gonna be Razorpay app. Save it and go in the server.js. It's time to use this middleware, express.json, and by having this middleware, our Express application is gonna read the content of request body in the APIs. Next step is gonna be defining a schema for the orders. Here is the schema. We use mongoose.schema to define the schema. We have is paid status, it's Boolean. Amount is the value that we're gonna pay. And the Razorpay object contains the order ID for Razorpay, payment ID, and the signature. Save it. And the last step is gonna be creating order model using mongoose.model. First parameter is the name of this collection, and second parameter is the schema that we're gonna create a model based on. Let's go for the routes. The first API that we're gonna implement is for getting Razorpay key from backend. Here is the definition of this API. The URL is /get-razorpay-key, and what it returns is this JSON that contains the key and the value is Razorpay key ID in the .env file. So it's time to go to .env file, put equal sign, and for getting the key, we will create an account in the Razorpay and get the key from Razorpay website. Let's go for the next step. And the next step is gonna be creating an order in the Razorpay. Scroll up, and in this line, I'm going to write this API. It's a post request, and the URL is create-order. Inside this async function, what we do is to create a new instance of Razorpay. It's coming from this line, an instance of Razorpay package. After creating an instance, we define options, and the options contains two values. Amount, it's coming from the request body, and currency, it's Indian rupees. In the next line, we call instance.orders.create. What it does is to connect to Razorpay and create an order for us. If the order is null, we send this error. Otherwise, we send the order to the frontend. If there is an error, we return status of error and the error message to the frontend. Save it, and also save the .env file. The next step is gonna be creating pay order API. Scroll up, and here I'm going to define pay order API. It's a post request, and inside this async function, what we do is to read the amount, Razorpay payment ID, Razorpay order ID, and Razorpay signature from frontend, and then create a new order based on the order model in the MongoDB database, and then save that order. After that, we send this message, payment was successful. If there is an error, return the error message to the frontend. That's it about the pay order API, and the next step is gonna be creating an API to list orders, because we're gonna show list of orders to the user. It's very simple. We just defined list orders as a GET request, and inside that, we get all orders in the database and return them to the frontend. To create Express app, we need to define the port, and the port is coming from .env.port, but if it's null, we use 5000 as a default backend port. At the end, it's time to call app.listen to the port and show this message in the terminal. Save the file, and here is 78 lines of code to return Razorpay key to frontend, create Razorpay order, and pay order, also list orders. Open your terminal, and while you are in Razorpay-app, it's time to call npm install, and what we're gonna install contains Express, Mongoose, Razorpay, and .env. Separate them by space and press enter and wait a while to install all packages. Great. After installing them, find the create order, copy Razorpay secret, go to .env file and paste Razorpay secret here and put equal sign. The next step is gonna be creating Razorpay accounts. Open your browser and go to razorpay.com. Click on sign up. You can sign up through Google or by using email. Select whatever you like, and after sign up, you will be redirected to the dashboard. It's in this address dashboard.razorpay.com/app/dashboard. You are in the test mode, that's okay. If you want to make it live mode, you need to fill activation form. But for this case, having test mode is enough. In this page, click on Payment Gateways, and here it's time to generate test key. If you already generated, it's gonna be like this. For new case, you need to click on Generate Test Key, like this, and deactivate the old key immediately, and click on OK. Here is the key ID. copy this, go to VS Code, paste it here, copy key secret, and paste it here, and click on OK. OK the alert, and that's it. In the .env file, save it. After this, go to server.js and right after .env, enter .env.config and save it. By calling this function, the content of .env file will be inserted to this variables process.env. Okay, let's run the project, type node and enter server.js and press enter. Great, server started at this point and MongoDB connected. The server part or the backend part is done and it's time to work on the client side or on the front end using React. What I'm gonna do is to open a new terminal. I'm in the Razorpay folder, create a React app using npx create-react-app. Put on a space and set the app name to frontend and press enter. We just created the React application. It's time to go to the frontend and run npm start to start your React application. By running this command, you will see the app running at this address localhost 3000. What we're gonna do is to convert this screen to a Razorpay payment screen. Let's go for it. Go to frontend folder, src, and find app.js. Get rid of header here and also the logo. To call APIs, we need Axios library. Import Axios from Axios. Also import React, useEffect and useState from React. What I'm gonna do here is to define 3 states. In the app function, define loading, order amount, and orders state hook. The default value for loading is false, for order amount it's 0, and for orders it's empty array. The next step is gonna be defining a function to fetch orders from backend. Define this async function and set the name to fetch orders. Inside that, call axios.get/listorders and then set orders based on the data from backend. By calling this API in the server side, this function will run. The next step is gonna be defining useEffect. Define useEffect and inside that call fetch orders and use empty array. By having empty array, fetch orders will run only one time after rendering the component. The next step is gonna be creating a form to pay order. First of all, create an H1 to set the name of project. It's Razorpay example using Node and React, and create a line, and then create H2 for the first section. It's for pay order. What I'm gonna do here is to create a label, an input box to get the amount like this. This label has amount and the input, the placeholder is rupee, type is number, value is order amount. If there is any change, we set new value in the order amount using this line. Next to that, put a button. It's Razorpay button, and when user click on it, we call load Razorpay. We're gonna show the Razorpay form or window to the user. If we are loading Razorpay, this button is disabled. Also, we need to use loading as a conditional rendering here and show loading message to the user. We will implement load Razorpay later. Let's create a div after HR and move the content here inside the div and save the file to format your code. Also, move the button and Razorpay out of the label. Here is the final form. It has input box, a button, and a loading indicator. The next step is gonna be creating list orders. After this div, create another div and set the class name for it to list orders. Go to app.css and right after app, put list orders like this. Set maximum width to 600 pixel and make a center aligned using margin 0 auto. Great, go back to app.js and it's time to create list orders. Create h2 and then create a table like this. Scroll up and here the code for table. We have table header. It contains 4 columns: ID of order, amount, is it paid, and Razorpay payment ID. Using order.map function, you can create rows and show the values in the cells. For the amount, we divide it by 100 to show rupees in correct format. Great, that's it about the view, and let's go for Razorpay function. Scroll up and after use effect, define Razorpay function. Here is the body of this function, and the rest of this tutorial is about implementing Razorpay. First of all, we need to add the Razorpay script to this web application. To do that, create an instance of a script tag or element using document.createScript and set it to a script constant. The next step is gonna be setting fields for a script. The first one is the source of a script. It's coming from razorpay.com/v1/checkout.js. If there is an error in loading a script, we handle it using this function onError, show alert, and for unload, we need to call this async function. When load is done, we need to create an order. So define a try catch body here like this, and if there is an error, alert the error and set loading to false. After defining onload function, we need to add the script to the document or to the web application using this command. Great, it's time to work on the try parts. At this point, we already have the Razorpay script in the document. So it's time to set loading to true and call this AJAX request. Create order using post method and pass the amount to this API, and the amount is coming from the input box in the UI. By calling this API in the server, the create order, this function will run. And what it does is to create an order in Razorpay and return the order to the front end. So at this point, the result contains the order in the Razorpay. What I'm gonna do here is to get the data of order, including the amount, ID, and currency. And then I need to get the Razorpay key from the backend using this AJAX request. After that, it's time to define options for creating a Razorpay window. The options contains the key. It's the Razorpay key that is coming from backend, the amount, convert it to a string, currency, the name, description, and the order ID. And the order ID is coming from the Razorpay, while in create order API. And the next one is the handler. The handler happens when the payment is successful. So let's define the handler here. It's an async function. And when the payment is successful, we call pay order in the backend and pass the amount and the Razorpay information of that transaction. In the server.js, we call this function, and inside that, we create an order and save it in the database. After that, we show the alert to user and fetch orders to show the new order in the screen. The next one is the pre-fill section. You can set the name, email, and contact on the Razorpay window. And also you can put a note if you like to add it. And you can set the theme based on the color that you like. After that, set loading to false and call the main command here, new window.razorpay, and pass the options. The last line is gonna be calling open on the payment object. Great. Let's open the terminal. Here you will get this error, cannot read Axios. Stop the project and install Axios because we import Axios, so we need to install it using I here. Press enter. After installing Axios, it's time to go to package.json inside frontend folder, not in the root folder. And after frontend, create a proxy and set it to this address. It's the local computer and the port is 5000. By having this proxy, all requests in the frontend to / is gonna be forwarded to this backend, and it's the backend that we already created for this project. Save it and then call npm stars and press enter. Enter amount in rupee like 10 and click on Razorpay. We have loading and then we have this modal. Let's test a payment using 5111 and enter expiry and CVV 111 and pay 10 rupee. You will be redirected to API, but it's just a test payment, and click on success. You will be redirected to the screen after successful payment and the alert is payment was successful. If I click on OK, the new order will be listed here. It's the ID of order in the MongoDB, the amount of payment, the payment status, and the Razorpay payment ID in the Razorpay. Let's go to the dashboard of Razorpay and click on transaction, and that's it. We have 10 rupees here. That's it about this lesson. Until next lesson, bye-bye.